Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you today on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe there. Like and subscribe on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. And please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. Please, everybody, like and share. That's the only page where I can accept friends. That's the only page. The other page is a landing page, and they keep kicking you all out. That's not my doings. Facebook has a certain amount of, they only allow a certain number of friends, and then they start pushing people out. And that's been happening for years. So please do me a favor. Go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. And everybody like and share. Ashley King down there, like and share down there in Memphis. Andre here in Chicago. So many of you like and share. Jump on in, jump on in. You know, as we are in this very exciting political moment, quite frankly. I think that's the best way for me to describe it. There's a lot going on as we watch the elevation of Vice President Kamala Harris. She is the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party, and many people feel that the momentum that she has right now could carry her right into the White House as the President of the United States. That is exciting. It's wonderful. But individual advancement cannot trump collective advancement. Individual achievement cannot trump collective advancement. The fact is, Black women make 69 cents to every dollar that a white man of similar skills and background makes. The Black family is slated to have a negative wealth, Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Esquire of Rainbow Push, by 2085. Negative wealth. How can we be here this long and be underwater? How does that work? We just passed Black women's equal pay day. Black women now have to work 7 additional months than what a white man has to work. In other words, white men work 12 months. We have to work 19 months in order to make what they make. And when you look at the diminished wages of the average Black working woman in the United States of America, and more than 60% of us work outside of the home, we lose close to $1 million a year, Camille Williams and Cassandra Greerley and Reverend Dr. Jeanette Wilson of Rainbow Push. We almost lose $1 million at the end of our careers. What does that mean for pensions, Reverend Wilson? And what does that mean for your retirement? Think about that. So as we're watching Vice President Harris, and many of us are excited about this moment, it has to be balanced by the real struggle of the masses of us, not just the advancement of the classes of us. It's all important. All of it is. And all oars must be in the water if we're going to get this boat across the ocean. So I want to talk with you today about one of the very real issues on the ground for us. One of the very real issues on the ground for us, voting rights. We've been asking President Biden for an executive order on voting rights. We need that. We've been looking for the Justice in Policing Act. Why? Because since the killing of George Floyd by Derek Chauvin, who at the time was a Minneapolis police officer, we think of Philando Castile, Reverend Dr. Wilson. We think of all these people because they all call Rainbow Push. And I'm glad that we could be of service. But this is where we are. When you think of Breonna Taylor, when you think of Tatiana Jefferson, we think. We've got some real problems here. Black women in particular, as we have always stepped out here to save our Black men and our sons and our nephews, our loved ones, our babies, as we should do. Black women are suffering, and we're suffering in silence, it seems, Reverend Dr. Wilson. I mean, when you think of a Sonya, and I want you to go over that, just tell us what happened to her. Because when we see the video, it is horrifying. And I feel like we're having a Rosa Parks moment, because Rosa Parks, everybody, was famous in Alabama before she took that historic ride on the bus in Alabama. She was famous because she was, number one, the state secretary of the NAACP before it was legal to be, or while it was illegal to be a member. A member. She was a state secretary. And why was she the state secretary? Number one, she had the nerve to become the state secretary, and she was active. But also, she was known throughout the state for really taking it to the police because Black women were routinely sexually assaulted. We were raped. And she made it her business to investigate these rapes and to take on the police of Alabama to get justice for Black women. And it seems like we're still looking for justice to this day. We have got on the show, we've got attorney C.K. Hoffler. She works with Ben Crump, who is working on this case. We've got Reverend Dr. Jeanette Wilson, Esquire from Rainbow Push. She is the head of the Push for Excellence program, but she's also a civil rights lawyer and a criminal defense lawyer. We've got Camille Williams. I'm so glad that you are with us today, Camille. Good Kids, Mad City. And Cassandra Greer-Lee of the Nicholas Lee Foundation. Many of us heard of Cassandra during COVID. Certainly, she's all of these women have such wonderful spirits, but we certainly didn't want to get to know Cassandra in the way that we did. Her husband was in jail and he was saying, hey, wait a minute, I don't feel well. All the symptoms of COVID that I'm hearing, I feel like I've got them. And he couldn't get any medical attention, let alone medicine. And he died. So she is taken on really, and we're looking, Reverend Wilson and Chairwoman C.K. Hoffler, she wants to have a summit at Push to talk about that. As we are really, we are the voice for the voiceless. What happened to Sonya Massey, Reverend Dr. Wilson? I mean, when you looking at the video, and as she rebuked the police officer in the name of Jesus, and she said it, I think, a couple of times. I can only imagine how did she get these three shots and then one shot to the head that kills her? What? She's in her pajamas. What happened?
Well, I can't get to that part until I understand if I call 911 and you respond to my call, two police officers respond to her call saying there might be a prowler outside. They come in and apparently she may or may not have some mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And so they ask her, are you having a mental health episode? Which is kind of a stupid question. They allow her to go get boiling water. And then I don't know how you decide to kill someone in their home. She didn't have any threatening weapons on her. We're having a conversation. And how do I end up dead? But for the police body cam, we would not have known any of this. And so it's like 30 minutes after they enter the home, they proceed to kill her. It's the same thing with Breonna Taylor in Kentucky. This home invasion, same thing with the lady in Chicago. They're executing a search warrant to the wrong apartment. She didn't die, but they have her exposed on camera, naked. And so it's just a total disregard of Black life. And in each instance, and this one in particular, the police officer that committed the murder has several prior problems with the department. He should not be on the force.
And Reverend Wilson, it appears that he was able to. He was in and out of at least 5 police jobs.
Yes.
And
what they do is they just move you.
How does that work?
They move you. Well, if you have a problem in Chicago, they move you to Rockford, or they move you to another police district, and somehow your record does not follow you, because he should not be allowed to be on the police force ever, or any department in any city or any locality. But we don't have a law that provides those kind of restrictions. And somehow this reminds me, Attorney Hoffler, of the slave codes and how the militia used to just arrest and murder Black people without cause. And it continues to happen over and over again. So I think this is a hate crime. I think it is a signal that we need to change how we recruit, train, and maintain police officers. There should be a screening a national screening service that says X police officer has committed these crimes in the past, should not be on the force. And they are saying that he did not follow the police procedure. Then there must be some improper training going on in the police departments, which allows them to have a an innocent person murdered. And apparently they knew she had mental challenges. So that should have signaled to them a different sort of protocol to follow when they entered the home.
Mm. Hey,
This
everybody.
is,
I
I
want to,
can't, you
yeah.
can't make this up, and it keeps happening. So it suggests that the police do not see themselves serving and protecting, but they feel as though they are occupying forces that can do whatever they choose to do. Laquan McDonald, killed on the streets of Chicago, shot down by a police officer that was not assigned to that matter, took it upon himself to go to the scene with, I think it was 9 other police officers present. He decided he's the leader and assigned himself to make decisions. This is the same kind of thing that happened with Breonna Taylor in Kentucky, with this lady in Springfield. I went to school downstate Illinois. It is perhaps one of the most racist areas one would imagine. It is reminiscent of the South in the
Oh, yeah.
50s.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you get out of here,
When you leave here,
it's a,
Chicago is bad enough. When you leave Chicago, you go down there, Springfield, Cairo, Illinois. They're still living in a time that has as far spent.
mm. So, Camille Williams,
Yes.
Good Kids, Mad City. What do you make of this? I mean, and we thought we were going to get we certainly, let me say this, we advocated for George Floyd justice and policing law. Didn't get it, and didn't even get it by executive order. And more people have been killed by police since George Floyd was killed, Reverend Dr. Wilson and Cassandra Greer Lee and Camille Williams,
Hmm.
that were killed before him.
Yes.
I mean, the killings not only, I mean, they increased in number. What do you make of this killing? I mean, come on, because we're not safe at home, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like what I said the other day on your show, right? As a millennial, it makes us hope. It make us hopeless, because we have to deal with gun violence in our communities against people that look like us, and now we got to deal with police violence, and then also as a black woman, right, dealing with police violence. I was working on a case of Rekia Boyd, with you, Reverend Wilson, remember? And and that right there, it was like, wow, really? The heartache when Dante Servant was acquitted and he had an unregistered firearm. He called the police. He stalked these 3 individuals and collected bullets on the scene, and he was still able to get off. And then it'll be 3 years for Alexis Wilson, whereas she was killed in Dalton by 2 police officers. One of the police officers had multiple murders under his belt, multiple. And it's like, what can we really do? But everything we have been trying to do, as Reverend Wilson said, fight for the database, fight for the George Floyd Act, fight for to end qualified immunity, no one is listening. Well, when I say no one, our lawmakers. It's like I don't know if they're scared or if the FOP is involved, but we need something. And as I was reflecting, because I'm getting ready to go back to Ferguson for Mike Brown's 10th Angel anniversary, I'm like, when we rose up for Mike Brown and Freddie Gray, we thought we was going to see something, but we didn't. We didn't. And it's like people want us to call for help. We saying that, go, you can get killed. People want us to have community relations with the police, but it's like if you guys are not being held accountable for the crimes y'all commit against citizens, it's gonna make us hard for us because the trust is gone.
So, I mean, do you have a response, Reverend Wilson?
Oh, yes. I think that we always operate on the moment. You know, we are reacting to this murder, the next police abuse. We have to be much more consistent with changing the laws that allow police officers, bad cops, to be moved around a district, not removed from the force totally. We have to pressure our cities and police departments within them. They have to follow certain protocols, and we have to have a better oversight of police officers. They cannot manage themselves. And that's another problem. You can't have the police deciding whether the police acted appropriately in a case like this one, in a case like George Floyd, in a case like Mike Brown. I mean, the cases keep going, but we have to change the systems that allow these bad cops to exist. And even when they are found convicted, as in some of the cases, they get lighter sentences. And so it puts a light on this entire judicial system, criminal justice system has to be addressed. And whoever is the next president, and hopefully it is Kamala Harris, we have to look at how our criminal justice laws are slanted against the poor and Black residents. You do not see the same kind of behavior in more affluent districts, police districts, and more affluent cities, suburbs around the country. So we have to fight and have our state legislators, as well as we need some federal legislation that has uniform policing. We have policing now by state. It's like your Congressman Jackson used to say, we make some things are states' rights and not federally protected, like the voting rights are not federally guaranteed. Good policing is not guaranteed because it is determined by each individual state, and then within that state, within the cities. And we can't continue like this because we see our people abused inside the police stations. They're dying in custody without being convicted of anything, beaten. And you see, I'm telling you, it's like the old slave codes. They just beat you on the street, kill you in your home. This lady had done nothing to warrant abuse or death. Nothing. She was the one who called the police. I remember Reverend Watts had a nephew, Stephon Watts.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
They killed that boy in his basement of his home. Just took him downstairs and shot him without provocation. He was having a mental episode, but he didn't have a weapon to hurt the police. And they make up things. And so I just think that we have to look at these state legislative bodies, and more importantly, the United States House of Representatives and the Senate Judiciary Committee. They need to have passed legislation that puts some control over the transfer of police officers from one district to another. If they have a bad record, they should be off the force. The same thing with these this squad we have in Chicago, call them the Jump Squad. Just jump out. They
JUMP.
Yeah, they jump out of. They're undercover cops. Had a young guy on this kind of SWAT team that just killed a kid here in Chicago. Drove up on his car with tinted windows. They could see that he had a weapon. They say
They can't see in the car.
they could see. They couldn't see in the car, but they could see. According
but
to
wait
them.
a minute, Reverend Wilson. Let's help people to see this. Dexter Reed's case.
Dexter Reed.
What they did was, it was in the middle of a neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Buddy. I mean, literally, on each corner was a house. So these police officers in unmarked cars.
And
Came from
ununiformed. They're not in uniform.
and they came from all directions, surrounded him, and they started shooting. Now, mind you, those shots, I've heard bullets ain't got no name on them. They could have gone into somebody's house. Somebody could have come out of the house trying to get to their car. Somebody could have had an emergency. Somebody could have been trying to get somewhere very quickly. You just don't know. They could have killed somebody, but they certainly did kill him, and they killed him on the ground. As he got out of the car,
Hands up.
hands
Don't
up,
shoot.
begging for mercy. They kept shooting him. Now, I mean, don't you think in one of the most heavily trafficked drug areas, and it's a beautiful neighborhood, but drugs are dropped into Black and brown communities so that they can be sold from our communities. But you have everybody in the world, white people, coming into our communities and buying the drugs. But no one raids their communities, Reverend Wilson.
I shall never forget. I was working for Chicago Public Schools at the time, and you remember the high-rise buildings on State Street, highly drug trafficked industry. There were white people that would drive up to the projects to get drugs from the people living there, and so those housing developments were labeled the most dangerous in the city, but they didn't grow any drugs. They were not manufacturing them. It was delivered to them to sell on behalf of these cartels that are not part of our community, not part of the city. And I will never forget, a young man said this was his territory. I said, they're going to tear these buildings down when they realize that these buildings are 15 minutes from the loop. And now you see a different mixed income housing. They allow certain areas to become so overwhelmed with drugs and crime that the people say we have to, the jump out boys. But these people have to realize you're allowed to have violence for a certain period of time until that property becomes valuable to the empire, so to speak, and then they will take the property back and remove you from it. And this is what we see happening all across America. And we yield to this stuff. Our young people are using the drug trade as a manufacturing industry. And it's like, you look at marijuana has now become legalized, and yet you can't get certain jobs if you can't pass a drop. All of this is manufactured to keep our communities depressed and under-resourced. You have no industry except for drugs in our community. We're inundating our kids with marijuana, so much so that they are unable to work anywhere because they can't pass a drop. And it takes 30 days for marijuana to get out of your system if you smoke it today.
And we don't even know that. So
we don't.
I mean, so Cassandra, Greer, Lee, when you try to get a job, Camille, you get eliminated. You will lose your job after you get it if they find it in your system and they randomly test us. Absolutely. So we have to understand the game, but I'm telling you, also see, people now, you've got Kamala Harris, who fortunately made a statement about Sonya Massey, but we need policy.
We got to have policy.
We need an executive order. I mean, if it just lasts till the end of the year on justice and policing, what can she do now?
Well, I think she could pass an executive order in the tradition of Lyndon Baines Johnson or Abraham Lincoln. The executive order is presidential power to lay out a certain policy that lasts so long as that president is in office. That would give you time to have the United States House of Representatives and the Senate pass laws. And so she could do an executive order. As a former prosecutor, she is fully aware of what happens in communities of color with policing. And so she could pass, by executive order, a uniform policing piece of a uniform policing law. And she then could put forth to the Congress some proposed legislation. But in the meantime, based on the number of killings initiated by law enforcement, she could say, I'm doing this as an emergency action while the Congress continues to look at the George Floyd Act or whatever act that is presented to them. But we have to have something to happen now. The other thing is these governors could, by executive order in every state, pass some legislation because the police feel like they have unbridled authority over residents. They can do whatever they want, and they are supported legally by the Fraternal Order of Police. The union covers their legal costs, protects and provides for them. In many cities across the country, they are picking the leadership of the police force. And, the U.S. Attorney's Office has to be engaged by direction of the president to begin to look at this bad policing and these police shootings more effectively. It's one thing to look at patterns and practices of stop and frisk. Now we need to look at patterns and practice of police abuse by rogue police officers. And that's where the U.S. Attorney's Office could come in.
Cassandra Greer-Lee, what do you make of this case when you see this case, and particularly now, and I'm going to circle back to you, Reverend Wilson. We're in the election season. Everybody wants our vote. And we did a show a couple of days ago. Camille Williams was there, as was Cassandra Greer-Lee. And more African Americans, and people trying to say that it's not happening, but more and more Black Americans, they're not apathetic and sitting home. They're angry, and they're not going to vote for the Democrats. They're like, because see, we're looking at a class divide as we're watching even the enthusiasm about Vice President Harris, who I fully disclose I went to college with her. I know her. I like her a lot. And I think that she absolutely means well. And she's tried to do the best that she could in the system that she was in. And has she done some things with which I disagreed? Sure. But does she have an opportunity to make some things right? To make things right? Absolutely. And I hope that she does. That having been said, it's going to be very hard for, in this time, if you see all of these whites who feel disenfranchised and disenchanted and angry, because that's what Trump is the face of. Trump is not the new Republican Party. He's the face of anger in America. And he's the horse that these people are riding on. And quite frankly, it's not even about white nationalism as it is about the death of the American dream, Reverend Wilson. These people can't buy houses. Do you know that increasingly a house in America, a new house costs you $1 million? Have you all checked out HGTV? You got to live on the moon to buy a house for $200,000 or $300,000 because you cannot get close to a city and do it. You can't even afford rent in the city. And we've got Tatiana Jefferson, we've got Breonna Taylor, we've got Sonya Massey. I don't know whether you are mentally ill or not. How is it that going home now for me is a death sentence? What is that, Cassandra Greer-Lee? I mean, how are we supposed to deal with that? I mean, what are we supposed to do in this election season? You tell me first your reaction to the murder of Sonya Massey I looked it up, Reverend Wilson and Camille Williams. This is they call him the deputy. He's a police officer who had 6 police jobs in 4 years. No, in no normal universe can anyone work in 6 different places in the same job in 4 years and continue to get employed.
Absolutely.
Cassandra.
Devastation. It was just pure devastation looking at it. And as Camille stated, it makes you lose hope, especially when you're out here fighting. When you're out here fighting and you're proving these points, we fight for something called treatment, not trauma. Mm-hmm. And a part of treatment, not trauma is instead of having the police come out to people that have mental health issues or mental breakdowns or episodes, let a mental health specialist go along with them to assist, because that's their profession. A police don't know what to do in that situation. That's why so many people are murdered. And the bad thing is that when I watched the video, I didn't see an episode. I didn't see her being irate. I didn't see her do anything to warrant what happened to her. So we're not safe anywhere. We're not safe outside. We're not safe in our homes. We're not safe in the jails. We're dying everywhere. So what else can we do? We get out here. We shed light on these things. We ask the legislators to help us. I when this beautiful black queen was assassinated on camera in front of us, when we all saw it, I heard so many elected officials that came out and gave statements, say something about the George Floyd Act, but what are they doing to pass it? Nobody's doing anything. Everyone's talking about it and using it as an example, but nothing is being done. Until we end qualified immunity, I believe the police are going to continue to do what they do, because I believe it gives them a sense of protection to say it's okay to kill us because they feel protected. As Camille stated, what else can we do? I just don't know. And now I see we can't openly pray or say, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, because that warrants a bullet to your head. So what else can we do?
No, no, no. First of all, we're not in slavery anymore. We made a lot of progress.
Absolutely.
So let us be very clear. We can do a whole lot. We've done a whole lot. But what you got to be clear on, as Reverend Wilson said, the struggle is a sustained one. You can't just respond to a killing. You got to respond to the killings.
That's right.
It has to be a systemic approach. This is something you have to do all day, every day, Camille.
That's right.
It's not something that we continue to respond to one thing after another. We say back in the civil rights days, the civil rights movement never ended.
That's right.
It's yours. Now what are you going to do with it? I mean, this woman is at home. She says, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus twice. I mean, oh, for heaven's sake, they showed the video to her 19-year-old son. I'm like, oh my God,
Mercy.
what? And he stopped before they shot his mother. He said, I can't watch anymore. He can never unsee that. Why would you show that child that? He's 19.
Lord.
At 80, you're not prepared to see that. I mean, this is the sickness. But I think that in this moment, you've got to squeeze the presidential candidates, and not just Vice President Harris, Donald Trump, the
Absolutely.
Libertarian, the Green Party. What are y'all going to do to respond to this? Because I fully believe that everybody ought to be responding to this.
I agree.
I mean, and you shouldn't lose hope. Uh-uh. You should be fueled and angry enough to do something different. Okay.
But Miss Jackson, let me just
Yes.
say, Santita,
Hold on. Yeah.
uh, to give you an example, Camilla and myself and several others, we were protesting at John Losh house and asking him, just demanding, not asking, but with Jason Van Dyke, who murdered Laquan McDonald. This man received 3.5 years for that young man's murder.
Mm-hmm.
Nicholas did more time as a pretrial detainee, not found guilty of anything when he died.
Your husband.
He did 3 years and 9 months. Jason Van Dyke did 3 years and 6 months for a murder. So, that shows right there that we know something is wrong, but we're tired. And when we stand up, what happened? The police were going to arrest us for peacefully protesting. This is just ridiculous.
But again, this is something, Reverend Wilson, this is ongoing. It never stops. I mean, if you could just be at push or roll around now with Reverend throughout the day. We hear about this all the time. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Don't feel hopeless, Camille.
Yeah.
You should go, wait a minute, hold on. Somebody ought to get angry about it. See, Rosa Parks didn't feel hopeless. She got angry.
Oh, we're
Well,
angry. We're angry. We're voting. We're doing these meetings. We're pressing. I mean, every day.
but I think,
I'm sorry. Every day, pushing lawmakers across this country and
yeah.
with the families across the country every day consistently. Like, they have became my family, right? So what I'm saying is, when the hopelessness come in is when you reach out to the different prosecutors and to say, okay, what laws communicate when you bring these proposals, when you're back and forth to DC, when you even pushing the lawmakers here in your very own state, and they give the statements. They say, okay, we're going to do this. And then they say, oh, something else came up. And we like, But then when we protest,
I think,
organize, they lock us up. Go ahead, Reverend.
Okay, but
well,
they did that to
I,
Dr. King. He's got a mugshot.
Oh,
More
I
than
got
one.
plenty. So,
Yeah, so it's okay.
oh,
well, I think that Santita, we've talked about this over time. It requires unity. You're united around an issue with a group of people. We have to expand that. All of us have to be focused on this agenda.
Mhm.
And it can't be, we can't leave you by yourself. Clergy have to step up in these communities, as well as lawyers have to step up. You got the National Bar. This has to be on all of our data issues. This is our one. I look at our Jewish brothers and sisters, they stay focused on their issues. I don't care who's in and who's out. We want this. And we have to, as African Americans, where this is primarily happening, and people of color, we have to be lockstep. We want reform in policing across this country. It's not limited to any one area. It's limited to wherever we are as Black people. We are overly policed and underrepresented in the policy making areas. That's why when Santita says it's not running a candidate, it is running candidates that address this. You have the Oval Office only has executive privileges. You have the judiciary, they interpret the laws, but you have Congress that's making laws, and we're not putting pressure on the House of Representatives and the senators. You should not have from 11 southern states white senators who care nothing about the Black community. And we're the majority of those southern states, particularly Mississippi and Alabama. We should see different laws being enacted. These state legislative bodies, they don't get to say, I'm very busy. And you're trying to figure out, what are you busy doing? You haven't changed the policing. You haven't changed the voting in most of our states. And so we have to be vigilant collectively. They have to see pressure from the bottom and the top. When we are all together, change comes. And it's only when there's this united front, because otherwise they marginalize, that's that group, they live over there, and therefore we don't have to care about them. We have to care enough to work together. Anytime we could get the end of apartheid in South Africa, we can do better in America.
Well, and I think again, I think we have to understand that this is, if you're in it, you got to be in it to win it, Camille and Cassandra and Reverend Wilson and everybody who is listening to us and participating in this discussion right now. It's Andre, it is Ashley down in Memphis, it's Bernadette, it is Wanda in North Carolina, it's Nuli from, are you in the Gambia? I'm sending you so much love today, and we got people all over the world. We've got Abraham down in Brazil, Mary Fleming, because they're dealing with this in Brazil too. Marielle Franco, who was one of the great freedom fighters, was murdered by the police in her car.
Mm-hmm.
People won't tell us what happened to her. Beautiful young Black woman, who was a real agent of change for the people, was not yet 40 years of age, murdered in her car with her security guard. And they won't give her any answers yet. Her family, they won't say anything. They won't say anything to her partner. Nothing. So this is a global struggle because everybody is pushing back against the police. And we want the police, but we don't want to be policed. I want the police to have my back. I don't want them on my back. This Sean Grayson, I just got a text. He was discharged from the Army for serious misconduct.
He's a nutcase.
No. He is. First of all, he is. He's not just crazy. We need to let crazy be crazy. Some people are mean and evil.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not gonna give you crazy, because crazy, mentally unstable, people who are insane. That's its own category. There is something, and you know this as a preacher. There's something called wickedness. Some people just mean. You're not going to make my slave master crazy. He and she were not crazy. They just felt that they had the right to own me and do whatever they wanted to me. They could rape me. That they could have my body. I had no agency over that. They could use me to death, work me to death. There were, I mean, in the United States, there is physical evidence as they look at the bones, the remains of many people who were enslaved. We were worked to death, worked so hard that your bones and your bones, muscles, and tendons popped apart. What? Oh yeah, Dr. Joy Degree has done so much fantastic work on that when she talks about the post-traumatic slave disorder, post-traumatic slave syndrome. Got to deal with that. But I mean, no one is. It's like women, black women are screaming in silence. Cassandra and Camille. I'm like, we're like doing like this. No one's paying attention to us when we're walking in our home. And now Breonna Taylor's boyfriend cannot even protect her. Remember, they were going to put him in jail. So no one's even supposed to protect me.
Well, it's because we're not viewed as human. You know, remember when they said we were 3/5 of a person? In many mindsets, particularly in these minds of these police officers, we're not people. They're here to serve and protect. We are to be occupied, to be managed, and to be handled and murdered at the will of these people. And so we have to really understand it's an uphill battle. It's better than it was, but it's not what it ought to be. Remember, they lynched us outside of church on Sunday.
No, it was an after church activity.
Outside on Sunday.
When folks took the children and put them on the
and
show.
they had picnics. That's why I don't like picnics today.
Well,
Because I know what it was.
Well, you know what picnic was.
Yes. Pick up. Yes.
An N-word.
Yes.
Bill, did you know that? That's
Yes, I did.
That's I mean, and we have to spread the word on our history, because look, the police were developed to be the slave catchers. Now, mind you, I don't want us to also move into the space where we look at all police as the enemy, because that is not true. We have people from all communities who've gone onto the force, if you will, and they've gone into policing, but it's now the force, which lets you know where the mentality is gone. And they really go in there trying to reform and do things differently. But then when they try, they meet the blue wall. And many of them have to leave or fear for their lives. I mean, you know this, Reverend Wilson, because we talk to these folks all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, so my question is, I mean, Camille, as we are in this political season, okay, because now you got a former prosecutor who is being elevated into the nomination. That's the only way I can put it, because no one voted. Yeah, I have a problem with how this is being conducted. They changed the rules so no one could could launch, not even oppose her, but launch a presidential run. I mean, we just have the corporate media and everybody saying that this is the way this is going to go, and that's it. And all the party leaders, if you will, have consolidated. Okay, I get it. But do I agree with it? No, because we're still not being heard. And if they're not careful, it'll happen in the fall, I guess. I mean, because who knows? I mean, this is also, everything to me is just so upside down, Camille. I mean, in this election season, what do you want? Okay, we got folks coming to Chicago. What do you want the Democrats to hear when they get to Chicago, Camille? Good kids, Mad City.
Okay, what I want them to hear and do, of course, like Reverend Wilson said, we do need to look at these things, this police accountability packet that we've been giving them, as well as another issue that is still low, like still just they're not getting, is violence prevention for young people across the country.
So, Camille, can you join us at the Rainbow Push Convention on August 15th? We're focusing on Stop the Violence, Save the Children, and looking at platform policies that we want to fight for. It's your opportunity to come and present. We have several panels that day. And then on Wednesday, it's Women's Day, and women are the victims. Either we lose our children or we lose our own lives as a result of this violence by police officers and in the community. If you come that day, we're developing policies that we want everyone to hear. the people's agenda. So if you can join us, we would be absolutely grateful to hear from you.
Well,
I,
you know,
I believe I still have your number. We could talk offline because one
yeah.
thing Good Kids Mad City has been pushing for the last almost 5 years was the peace book, right? Getting young people jobs, it's incentivizing peace, making sure that they have wraparound services. And we have actually seen it work. Like we have it a pilot right now with One Summer Chicago. So we have a plan. We
Mhm.
have the evidence-based facts for it, but it's always, well, it's a complex issue. And I'm like, okay, you guys are telling us these young people are carjacking. They don't have nothing to do. They're taking downtown. But when we came up with the peace book, we surveyed a lot of these young people in different communities. So we're doing the work.
Well, we're going to give you the platform so more people will know. That's why Santita has you on this program. Sometimes your issues have to be elevated higher than you are because you're so busy working real hard, proving that this is an idea that works. We have to help you take it to the next level, and we will. So join us. Call me.
All right, thank you for that opportunity.
And call me too. Because the thing is, because also remember this, Cassandra and Camille, there are so many issues that are coming at all of us all at one time. Because while we're looking at this violence, we're looking at a public school system that they are collapsing. You even have Jay-Z, someone who is beloved in the Black community, who's signing on to increase charter schools, which takes money from public schools. It hurts our children. I don't think he means to do it, but he's not talking to me. He's talking to the right wingers because money. This is the money. They're saying about the money. I was talking to a young man yesterday. He's a youth. He's a child, and I saw that he was wearing a Kenwood High School T-shirt. For those of you who are not from Chicago, Kenwood is one of the most outstanding public schools, really, in the history of the country. They had a world famous choir mistress, Lena McLean. Everybody who has come through music in a major way in Chicago, everybody knows Lena McLean, God rest her
Mhm.
soul, because she was a brilliant teacher. Yes, she did teach Robert Kelly, whatever his personal problems are, you cannot deny his genius. And she nurtured that. Shaka Khan, she nurtured that. You just keep on going. That's Kenwood. Merit scholars, merit achievement scholars coming out of Kenwood. And I had to tell this child, I said, there was a time when you could go to your neighborhood school and get a great education, but now they move things around, Reverend Wilson and Camille Williams and Cassandra Greeley, that where you have to get into these selective schools. That's shameful. I mean, it's just, what we're doing is not right. We're cheating our children and we're cheating our future. So, that's why I'm saying to you, while we got education, getting pregnant for a Black woman, for a woman in America, Black, white, brown, yellow, and red. We have the highest rate of maternal mortality in the industrialized world for everybody. For Black women, it is exponentially true, and for Indigenous women. So we're tackling all those issues the 15th through the 18th at the convention as we're moving into the Democratic convention. And I appeal to everyone, look, push the Republicans too. Whoever gets in, these issues are not going away. Don't get caught up in the personality. Deal with the process. Make these people work for you, whether you vote for them or not. They are at the they're in the driver's seat of your bus. So Camille, I call Reverend Wilson and let's work this out. Because also, just given the fact that the movements being what they are, Cassandra, as important as our individual issues are, as important as they are, everybody's got an issue that is equally weighted to them, Cassandra. Like as you're looking at the circumstances of our brothers and sisters and children and loved ones in the prison system, for somebody else's education, so for someone else's health care, for someone else, for someone else, for someone else. I mean, I have a girlfriend who I was from very, very, a very, very comfortable family. She was not, no one paid attention to her with postpartum depression, and she committed suicide. We don't pay enough attention to those things. We don't pay enough attention to a lot of things, but when we come together, we can inform each other, Camille and Cassandra. And Reverend Wilson, we can let each other know, hey, this is what's happening over here, because many of us don't even know.
And I think, Santita, that's why these kinds of programs are so important. And I never forget, Reverend Jackson was on the radio somewhere every day, hearing from the people, because
Mm-hmm.
we won't know what we should be fighting for if the people don't scream out and say, hey, this happened to me. This happened to my family. This happened on my block. We wouldn't have known people couldn't move in certain neighborhoods if the people didn't say, they stopped me from getting a mortgage. They didn't let me move in this house because it was redlined. And so once we see the issues collectively, we can address them and we can keep hope alive. Don't give up hope. We're going to work together. We're going to win.
But we're going to win. We're going to win. Cassandra, your closing
Yes.
thought.
Well, I believe it. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep fighting daily like I always do. I'm going to keep pressing these lawmakers, and, they're going to hear us. They're going to hear us. I'm going to demand, not ask, for them to hear us. They work for us. That's one thing that I do know. And I'm going to stand on my faith and keep pushing. And long as I have great supporters like you, Santita, and you, Miss Wilson, and Operation Push, I know that everything's going to be all right. I'm going to keep
It'll
pushing.
be
I
all
got
right.
my side, so I can't go wrong. And also, the last thing is we're having an action for Miss Massey. Just shedding light on what happened to her
Mhm.
tomorrow at 219 South Dearborn. Just demanding that they pass that George Floyd Act and also end qualified immunity. So if anyone is here in Chicago, please join us and help us shed light. And then right after that, we're having a panel discussion about solitary confinement. So at the University of Chicago. So please join us.
Stay right there. Camille Williams, you get the final word. Good Kids, Mad City. What do you want? Just think about it. You are talking to everybody in the world, perhaps even Kamala Harris. How about that? Make that case.
Yeah, I'm going to continue to fight. I'm going to connect more with Operation Push. Reverend Wilson, you and I have seen each other over the past few years, so I do agree that collectiveness, that unity, is what we need. And although I feel at this moment hopeless, but I fight every day, and I'm going to continue to do so. And like I said before, I will be voting. I actually early vote, and I will get my peers to vote.
Mhm.
So I
Amen.
never gave up on that.
I don't think you've given up. I think that you've been disappointed. And I want you to know that's part of the process. But you can win every day. I'm so glad that my father never gave up, Camille. Cassandra, I cannot tell you the disrespect that he has had to absorb from everybody, starting with our own people. He's known nothing but rejection. Maybe that's why he was born rejected. And my mother said, your father's known he's had to fight enemies every single day of his life. Every day. But instead of making him bitter, it made him better. It made him really try to work things out with people. It made him not not keep a grudge. It turned on something in him that has not gone out. He just continues to fight. When we ran for president in 1984, I cannot begin to tell you the disrespect. So much disrespect. So much so that at the end of the convention, Camille, my mother refused to go on stage. The wives and the candidates go on stage and wave and, how you doing? My mother said, absolutely not. Now, mind you, there's tension because we're literally like at the backstage, and my father looked at my mother and said, absolutely not. She said, as disrespectful, as unkind as this party has been to us. My father said, if I don't go out there, boy, this is going to damage our people. And my mother had a great point. And he looked at my brothers Jesse and Johnny and I, because we were of age, he said, please don't let daddy go out there by himself. Because he knew that this was, my mother was right, but he needed to do this too. And so I'm just telling you, you got to take hits. And we went out on that stage and I had to put my head down because I did begin to cry. But I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't let my mama see it because she would have really beaten me up. By the time I'd gotten off that stage, she was like, don't you let these people know that they have hurt you, because my mother's a real one, okay? And I'm simply saying to you, in life, if you're gonna be in this fight, Camille, you don't have the luxury of a negative thought, as Reverend Ike said. You don't have the luxury of feeling hopeless. You ain't got that kind of time. Too many people are looking at you, feeling, and they are being empowered by you and your fight. So whatever you need to do, if you need to step back, get some rest, and recharge, you make sure you do it. There's one thing I do know: my father would be at the gym every morning around 4:30 or 5 in the morning because he made sure that he was physically healthy. He's never done drugs. He does not drink. He would take care of his temple. And he would also shut down negative notions. As you know, Reverend Wilson, you've worked with him for more than 40 years. He shuts negativity out and keeps right on going. His eyes are focused on that finish line. I would urge you, Cassandra, Camille, and everyone, Vanessa, my soror, my girl, for more than 50 years. We were in kindergarten together, kindergarten, high school, college, sorors. I love you, Vanessa. Hey, everybody, it's a fight, and it does not stop. You don't have the luxury of stopping. He maketh me to lie down beside the still waters, and lie down and rest, and then get up, because the fight continues. I love you, girl. Love y'all. See you on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. And hey, I hope you enjoyed the conversation I had with Congressman Jonathan Jackson. Right. Oh, my family's been blessed. We've had two of them. We had a wonderful conversation yesterday talking about election 2024, what he saw, because he went to the Netanyahu speech. It was just, please go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and people kind of got a chance, as he said, to see us at our living room and dining room table, because we did get a lot of laughs in between everything. Congressman Jonathan Jackson, he's Johnny, my brother. What can I tell you? If we didn't have humor, Camille and Cassandra and Reverend Wilson, I don't know what we do. I love you, everybody. Have a great one. See you on Keep Up Alive, the Rainbow Push International Conference, the 15th through the 18th of August. Please go to rainbowpush.org. Go to rainbowpush.org and just make our organization, make our building your home, as people getting out and protesting and demonstrating. Camille, we got a lot of work to do leading into that convention and leading through it and past it. I love you, everybody. See you on Sunday on Keep Up Alive, and then on Monday here on the Santita Jackson Show. Love you.